intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar is on the table. Open to page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language. In fact, I know that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays stress on your German when he's leaving for town.
Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes I think he's so serious he cannot be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanor should be especially commended in one so comparatively young as he is. I know of no one who has a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that's why he often looks a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I'm surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
Well, I wish you would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come visit us sometime. I think we could be a good influence over him, Miss Prism. I know you certainly could. You know German and geology, and things of that kind influence a man very much.
No, that's true. Oh, I'm not sure that even I could have any effect on a character who, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. I'm not sure I would have a desire to reclaim him. I am not in favor of this modern mania of turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him reap. Oh, but you must put away your diary, Cecily. I don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary to record all the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary we all carry about with us.
Memory only chronicles the things that haven't happened, things that couldn't possibly happen. I think memory is responsible for nearly all of the 3-volume novels the library sends us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. Oh, I hope it didn't end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so.
Well, the good ended happily and the bad ended unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so. This seems very unfair. So was your novel ever published?
Oh, alas, no. The manuscript was unfortunately abandoned. Oh, but I use that word in the sense of lost or mislaid. Oh, to your work, child. These speculations are profitless.
Ugh. But I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming out through the garden.
Oh, Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
How are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are, I trust, well.
Oh, Miss Prism has been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her so much good to go for a walk with you through the park, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, I have not mentioned anything about a headache.
Oh, I know that, dear Miss Prism. I just instinctively felt you had a headache. Indeed, that's all I could think of, if not of my German lesson when the rector came in.
Oh, I hope, Cecily, you're not being inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid that I am.
Oh, I find that strange, for if I was fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. Oh, I spoke metaphorically, of course. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not yet returned from town.
Oh, we do not expect him until Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes, he likes to spend his Sundays in London. He's not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, unlike that unfortunate young brother that he has seems to be. But I must not disturb Nigeria and our people any longer.
Oh, Nigeria? My name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical illusion merely drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, I trust, at Edmonton.
Oh, I would like to take a walk with you after all, Doctor. I do find I have a headache, and a walk might do it good.
Oh, with pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. Perhaps we can go as far as the school and back.
Oh, that would be delightful. Oh, Cecily, you read in your political economy in my absence. The chapter on the fall of the rupee, you may admit, it's somewhat too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side.
economy, horrid geography, horrid German.
Excuse me, miss. Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage along with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany West. Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing's in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very distressed. I mentioned that you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He said he was anxious to speak to you, for a moment, in private.
Send Mr. Ernest Worthing in here, and you'll need to speak to the housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never met a really wicked person before. I'm a little frightened. Oh, I'm so worried he's going to look just like everyone else. He does.
Why, you must be little Cecily.
And you must be under some strange misconception. I'm not little. In fact, I'm more than usually tall for my age. But I am Cecily, and you, I see from your card, are Mr. Worthing's brother. His evil brother.
Oh, Cecily, I am not evil. You mustn't say that I'm evil.
Well, if you're not, then you've just been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. Pretending to be wicked, but really being good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Well, I suppose that I have been a little reckless at times.
Good, I'm glad to hear it.
Now that you bring up the subject, I have been very bad, in my own small way.
Well, you shouldn't be so proud of that. Although I'm sure it was rather pleasant.
Not as pleasant as being here with you, Cecily.
I'm not sure how you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back until Monday afternoon.
Oh, I know, and that is a horrible disappointment. And I am obliged to head home on the first train Monday morning. I have a business appointment in London that I am anxious to miss.
You couldn't miss it anywhere but in London.
Oh, no. The meeting, it's in London.
Well, I understand the importance of missing a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life. I do think you should stay on until Uncle Jack arrives. He's very anxious to speak with you about your emigrating.
About my what?
Your emigrating. He's gone up to buy your outfit.
Oh, good heavens. I would never let Jack pick out my outfit. He has no taste in neckties.
Well, I don't think you're going to need neckties where you're going. He's sending you to Australia.
Australia! I'd sooner die.
Well, good. He said at dinner Wednesday that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Oh. Well, my accounts of Australia, well, and the next world are very dreadful. This world is good enough for me, Cecily.
But are you good enough for it?
Well, I'm afraid I am not. That's why I was hoping that perhaps you might reform me. Maybe make that your mission, perhaps.
Oh, well, I'm afraid I haven't the time this afternoon.
Well, then if you wouldn't mind my trying to reform myself this afternoon.
Oh, well, that's rather quixotic of you, but I do think you should try.
Well, I will. There, I feel much better now.
You're looking a little worse.
Well, that's because I'm hungry.
Oh, how faultless of me. I should have known that when one's going to embark on an entirely new life, one needs regular and wholesome meals. Would you care to come in?
Thank you, thank you. However, could I have a buttonhole first? I never really have an appetite unless I have a buttonhole.
A yellow rose.
Oh, no. A red rose.
Why?
Well, because you are a red rose, Cecily.
I don't think you should say such things to me. Miss Prism never talks to me that way.
Well, then Miss Prism is a mean, nasty old lady. You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, Cecily.
Miss Prism says all good looks are a snare.
Oh, a snare that every sensible man would care to be caught in.
Well, I don't think I should care to catch a sensible man. I should know what to talk to him about.
You are too much alone, dear Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. A misanthrope I can understand. A woman-thrope now.
Believe me, I do not deserve so eulogistic a friend. The precept, indeed the practice of the primitive church, was distinctly against matrimony.
Well, that's obviously the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up to this present day. You do not seem to realize, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy could lead a weaker vessel astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive, except to his wife.
And often I've been told, not even to her.
Oh, yeah. Well, that depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can be depended on. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are greedy. Oh, but I spoke horticulturally, of course. My metaphors drawn from fruits. Oh, but where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Oh.
Mr. Worthing!
Mr. Worthing!
Oh, this is indeed a surprise. We did not expect you till Monday afternoon.
I have returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Chasuble, I hope you are well.
Oh dear, Mr. Worthing, I hope this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
It is my brother.
More shameful debts and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure.
Oh, he is dead.
Your brother Earnest, dead.
He's quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, allow me to offer you my sincerest condolences. And have the consolation knowing that you are always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Earnest, he had many faults, you know, but it is a sad loss nonetheless.
A sad, sad blow indeed. Were you with him at the last?
No, he died abroad in Paris. I just received a telegram from the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
It was a severe chill.
As a man sows, so let him reap.
Charity, Miss Prism, charity. We are not all perfect. I myself suffer peculiarly from drafts. Will the interment take place here?
No, he expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
Yes. I fear that hardly points to any stable state of mind at the inn. You would, of course, like me make some small allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. You see, my sermon on the meaning of the man of the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion, joyful, or as in this case, distressing. I've given it on harvest festivals, christenings, confirmations, days of humiliation, and festival days. The last time I delivered it was in the cathedral for a charity sermon for the Society of the Prevention of Discontent among the upper orders. But the bishop, who was in attendance, was much struck by some of the analogies that I drew.
That reminds me, Dr. Chasuble, you mentioned christenings, I think. I suppose you know how to christen all right. I mean, of course you know how to christen. You're christening all the time, are you not?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I've often spoken to the poor classes on the subject, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
But was there any particular infant with whom you are interested in, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was unmarried, was he not?
The people who live entirely for pleasure usually are, Doctor.
No, nothing like that, Dr. Chasuble. He was, of course, unmarried. It is actually for myself that I inquire. I would like to be christened myself. But this afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
Oh, surely Mr. Worthing you been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
Do you have any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have, but I don't know if the thing would make you uncomfortable in any way, or perhaps you think that I am too old now?
No, the sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
The immersion?
Oh, please, do not be apprehensive. I think sprinkling is all that is necessary, or indeed advisable, as our weather is so changeable. At what hour would you like the ceremony performed?
I might trot around about 5, if that would suit.
Perfectly. I have 2 similar ceremonies to perform at that hour. A case of twins being born in one of the outlying cottages on your very own estate. Jenkins, the carter, a very hard-looking man.
But I don't see much fun in being christened with babies. It seems childish. Would 5:30 do?
Oh, admirably. Mr. Worthing, I don't wish to intrude into a house of sorrow any longer. Please, I beg you, be not bowed down by grief. What may seem to us as bitter trials may oftentimes be blessings in disguise.
Well, this seems to me to be a blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Oh, Uncle Jack, I'm so pleased to see you home. Oh, what horrid clothes you've got on. Do go and change.
Oh, my child.
What's the matter, Uncle Jack? You look happy. You look as though you have a toothache. Oh, and I have such a wonderful surprise for you. Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother!
Will Jack be reunited with his imaginary brother? Will Algernon suffer the indignity of becoming Australian? And will Miss Prism finally succumb to the charms of the devastatingly handsome Dr. Joseph? All this and more after a brief intermission in the importance of being earnest. Previously, on the importance of being earnest.
Ernest, I have always suspected you of being a confirmed and secret Bunburyist.
I would never dream of allowing my only daughter to marry a trichinochrum and form an alliance with a parcel.
You'll never guess who's in the dining room. Your brother!
Who?
Your brother Ernest. He arrived a half an hour ago.
But I don't have a brother.
Oh, Uncle Jack, don't say that. No matter how badly he may have behaved in the past, he is still your brother. I'm going to go and get him, and you will shake his hand, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are joyful tidings.
Oh, yes, they are.
But after all been resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems to be particularly distressing.
My brother in the dining room, I don't know what this means. It seems absurd. Good heavens! You!
Oh, Brother John, I have come down from town to tell you how sorry I am for all of the pain and hurt that I have caused you, and to tell you that I will be a better person in the future.
Uncle Jack, you're not going to refuse your own brother's hand, are you? Oh.
Nothing could induce me to take his hand. I think it's coming down here disgraceful, and he knows why.
Oh. Uncle Jack, do be nice. There's some good in everyone. Why, in fact, he was just telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, and how he goes to visit him ever so often. Surely there must be much good in someone who leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
Bunbury? He's been talking to you about Bunbury, has he?
Oh, yes, he's told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible
And I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else. It's enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
Oh, I do admit, all the fault was on my side. But I do say that I find Brother John's coldness towards me a little disheartening, especially since this is the first time I've ever been to his beautiful home.
Oh. Uncle Jack, if you don't shake Ernest's hand, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never.
Very well, but this is the last time I shall ever do it.
It's wonderful, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation? Come, ladies, let us leave these brothers alone.
Cecily, you will come with us, dear.
Oh, certainly. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You've done a beautiful action today, dear child.
No, but we must not be premature in our judgments, Doctor.
Well, I certainly feel happy.
You scoundrel, Algy, you have got to get out of this place at once. I don't allow any Bunburying here.
Excuse me, sir. I put Mr. Earnest's things in the room next to yours. I suppose that is all right.
What?
Mr. Earnest's luggage, sir. I've unpacked and put in the room next to your own.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaux, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a very large luncheon basket.
I can only stay for a week this time.
Merriman, order the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has been called suddenly back to town.
Yes, sir.
You're a fearful liar, Jack. I have not been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
No, I didn't hear anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasure in the slightest bit.
I can quite understand that.
Oh, Cecily. She is quite a darling, isn't she?
I don't allow you to talk about her like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. It's absolutely dreadful, you being in mourning for someone who, very obviously, is staying at your house for a week.
You are not staying here for a week as a guest or as anything else. You've got to leave by the 4:05 train.
Well, I could never, ever leave you while you're in mourning. I mean, that would be quite unfriendly of me, wouldn't it? I don't suppose that if I were in mourning, then you would leave me. That would be unkind.
If I change my clothes, will you leave?
Yes, I suppose, if you hurry up. I've never seen someone take so much time to dress with so little result.
It's better than being always overdressed as you are.
Well, perhaps I am a little overdressed at times, but I make up for it by being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct is an outrage, and your presence here in my garden is utterly absurd. But you have got to leave by the 4:05 train, and I hope you will have a pleasant trip back to town. This Bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success.
Oh, this Bunbury has been a great success. I am in love with Cecily, and that is everything. But I do need to see her again to set up another Bunbury. Oh, here she is.
Oh! I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
Oh, no, he's gone to order the dog cart.
Oh, is he taking you for a nice drive?
No, he's sending me away.
Away? You mean we've got to part?
Yes, parting is particularly painful.
It's always painful to part from people whom one has known for a particularly brief period of time. Absence from old friends one can endure with equanimity, but even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one's just been introduced is absolutely unbearable.
Oh, thank you.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
It can wait, Merriman, for 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
I hope I will not offend you, Cecily, if I tell you that for me, I believe you to be the visual personification of absolute perfection.
Oh, your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. Do you mind if I copy your remarks into my diary?
Oh, yes, of course, a diary. Do you really keep a diary?
Oh, yes.
May I read it?
Absolutely not. It's quite simply a very young girl's innermost thoughts and impressions. And consequently meant for publication, I do hope you'll order a copy when it becomes available in volume form. But do go on, Ernest. I'm quite ready for more. I've reached absolute perfection. Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Dearest Cecily, ever since I have looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly, and I think
excuse me, Ernest. I don't think you should tell me you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't make much sense, does it?
Oh, Cecily.
The dog cart is by the door, sir.
Tell it to come round the same hour next week.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
I think Uncle Jack will be very much annoyed to know that you're staying on till next week at the same hour.
oh, I don't really care about Jack, Cecily. I don't care about anyone else in the world. I love you. You will marry me, won't you?
Oh, you silly boy, of course! Oh, why, we've already been engaged for the last 3 months.
The last 3 months?
Yes.
Well, how is it that we were engaged?
Well, as soon as Uncle Jack told us that he had a very wicked brother named Earnest, you became the chief topic of conversation between Miss Prism and myself. And whenever one is very much talked about, he becomes very attractive. People assume there must be something in him after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, Ernest, but I fell in love with you.
But when was our engagement settled?
Oh, on the 14th of February last. Worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to put an end to matters one way or the other. After a brief struggle with myself, I finally accepted you under this dear old tree.
Oh.
The next day, I bought myself this little ring in your name. Oh, and this bangle with the true lover's knot that I promised you I'd wear always.
That is pretty, isn't it? Did I pick that out for you?
Oh, yes, you have wonderful taste, Ernest. It's the excuse I've always given you for leading such a bad life. Oh, and here's the box where I store all of your dear letters.
But, Cecily, I don't believe I've ever written a letter to you.
Well, you needn't remind me of that, Ernest. I remember all too well that I was forced to write your letters for you. I wrote often, sometimes 3 times a week or more.
Well, can I read them?
Oh, no. They would make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote me after I broke off the engagement were so beautiful and so badly spelled that I still tear up a little when I read them.
But wait a minute. Has our engagement ever been broken off?
Oh, yes, on March 22nd. I'll show you the entry if you like. Right there. Today I broke off the engagement with Earnest. I felt it best to do so. The weather remains charming.
But what had I done, Cecily? Why would you break off our engagement? I had done nothing. I'm especially hurt that you chose to break off our engagement, especially when the weather was so charming.
Well, it could hardly be considered a real engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But don't worry, I forgave you by the week's end.
Oh, Cecily, you are a perfect angel.
romantic boy. Did your hair grow naturally?
Yes, with the help of others.
Oh, I'm so glad.
But Cecily, you will never break off our engagement again, will you?
Oh, no, I could never break it off now that we've actually met. Besides, there's still the matter of your name.
Yes, my name.
Don't laugh at me, darling, but it's always been a girlish dream of mine to love a man by the name of Earnest. Something in the name just inspires one with absolute confidence. Indeed, I pity any poor married woman who's not married to a man by the name of Earnest.
But, Cecily, you don't mean to say that if my name was something other than Earnest, that you couldn't love me?
Well, what name?
Oh, I don't know. How about Algernon?
Oh, Algernon. I don't like the name of Algernon.
Well, I don't know why you wouldn't like the name Algernon. It's not a bad name. It's a rather aristocratic name. I mean, half the fellows in bankruptcy court are named Algernon. You don't mean to say that if my name were Algie, that you wouldn't love me?
Well, I might respect you. I might admire your character. But I'm afraid I would never be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector here is well versed in the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh, yes, Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He's never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
Yes. I must speak to him immediately about an important christening. I mean about some important business, business.
Okay.
I shouldn't be gone for more than a half an hour.
Oh, well, considering we've been engaged for 3 months and I only just met you today, I think it rather hard of you to leave me for a period as long as a half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back as soon as I can.
Oh, dear, sweet, impetuous boy. Oh, I love his hair so much. Ooh, I need to write his proposal in my diary.
Excuse me, miss. Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing. On very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Well, isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
I do believe he went in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Oh, all right. Send the lady in, and you'll need to make tea.
Yes, miss.
Miss Fairfax. Oh, undoubtedly one of the many good elderly women that works with Uncle Jack in London. I don't like women that are involved in philanthropic work. It just seems so forward of them.
Miss Fairfax.
Pray let me introduce myself. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew. What a very sweet name. Something tells me we're going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say.
Oh, how very kind of you to like me so much after you've only just met me.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
Of course.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
If you wish.
Then it is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
Perhaps now would be an opportunity for my telling you who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. I don't suppose you've heard of father?
No, I don't think so.
Though outside the family circle, father is entirely unknown exactly how I think it should be.
Well,
the home seems to me to be the perfect sphere for a man. When a man neglects his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate, does he not? It makes the man so very attractive. Oh, Cecily, mother has raised me. With her views on education being entirely strict, she has raised me to be entirely short-sighted. You don't mind me looking at you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You're here on a short visit, I suppose. You're
No,
here on
I
a
live
short
here.
visit.
Oh, no, I live here.
Your mother, or some female relative of advanced years resides here also. Female relative
No, I
of
have no
advanced
mother.
years
No, in fact,
resides
any
here
relations.
also.
No, I have no mother.
Indeed.
Nor my guardian, along with the help of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me. My guardian, along with the help
Guardian?
of Miss Prism, Yes, has I'm
Oh,
Mr.
Mr.
Wood's
Worthing's
task of
ward.
looking after me.
I beg your pardon.
Yes, I'm Mr.
I never
Worthing's
knew he
ward.
had a ward. He's a very secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. He grows more interesting hourly. Oh, Cecily, I've liked you ever since I met you. But now that I know that you're Mr. Worthing's ward, I wish that you were a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so alluring in appearance. If I may speak quite candidly, Cecily.
Oh, please do. I think whenever anyone has anything unkind to say, they should always speak very candidly.
Oh, well, to speak with perfect candor, Cecily, I wish that you were fully 42, and unusually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty would be to him as deception. Oh, Cecily, you've lifted a load from my mind. I'm so glad a terrible cloud has not come over a friendship such as ours.
Excuse me, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, no. It is not Mr. Ernest Worthing that's my guardian. It's his brother.
His brother? He never mentioned to me he had a brother.
Yes, unfortunately, they haven't been on good terms for many years.
Well, that makes sense. No man has ever mentioned to me he had a brother. The subject must be very distasteful. Oh. Cecily, you're quite sure it's not Mr. Ernest Worthing?
Oh, quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, sweet Gwendolyn, I see no reason to keep it a secret from you. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
Oh, my dearest Cecily, I believe there has been some slight error. As Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me, and the announcement will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
Well, no, I think there must be some misconception. Ernest proposed to me not even 10 minutes ago. Look.
I'm so glad you carry your diary. I carry my diary all the time. Everyone should always have something sensational to read on the train. But I must tell you, dearest Cecily, that Mr. Ernest Worthing proposed to me yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you can verify the incident, pray do so.
Dearest Gwendolyn, it would pain me more than words can say if I caused you any mental or physical anguish. However, I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he has clearly changed his mind.
Oh, Cecily, if the poor fella has felt entrapped by any of my foolish promise, I will rescue him once and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy has fallen into, I will never reproach it with him after we're married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? How very presumptuous. On an occasion such as this, where one should speak one's mind, it becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? Now is not the time for wearing the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I am so glad to say I've never seen a spade. It is obvious our social circles are widely different.
Ooh, should I lay the tea here as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Are there any interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh yes, a great many. From one of the hills quite close, one could see 5 counties, Miss Fairfax.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that's why you live in town.
Quite a well-kept garden this is, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I didn't know there were flowers in the country.
Flowers are as common in the country as the people are in London.
Well, I don't know how anyone manages to exist in the country, if anyone who is anyone does. The country bores me to death.
Oh, that must be what the papers refer to as agricultural depression, is it not? I hear the aristocracy are suffering from it very much at present. It's almost an epidemic, so I hear. Can I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Detestable girl, but I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen in the best of homes nowadays.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
You have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition, extraordinary sweetness of my nature. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
Oh, to save my poor, sweet, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I met you, I distrusted you. I felt that you were false and deceitful. I am not deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
I think we are trespassing on your valuable time, Miss Fairfax. I'm sure you have many other calls of similar character to make in the neighborhood.
Ernest! My Ernest!
Gwendolyn!
Oh, a moment, please. I must ask, are you engaged to this young lady?
To Cecily? Why, no, of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Oh, thank you, you may.
Oh, dearest Gwendolyn, I knew there must be some mistake. The gentleman who has his arm around your waist at present is not Mr. Ernest Worthing, it's Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon?
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack? Oh!
Oh, here.
My own love.
Here's Ernest. Oh, a moment, please. May I ask you a question? Are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
Good heavens, Gwendolyn!
Oh, yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. I mean, to Gwendolyn.
No. What could have put that idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
Oh, Cecily, I knew there must be some slight error, as the man who is embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief? Are you Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Oh!
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked, but my name is John. Has been John for years.
Oh. Dear, sweet Gwendolyn.
My poor wounded Cecily. You will call me sister, won't you?
Oh, of course. Oh, dear. There's just one
your brother Ernest, and I would like to know where he is at present.
Gwendolyn, Cecily, it pains me to be placed in this position of having to tell the truth, but the truth is, I have no brother.
No brother at all?
Not at all.
No brother of any kind.
Not of any kind.
Oh, Cecily, it's obvious that neither one of us is engaged to anyone.
Well, this is an unfortunate situation for a young girl to find herself in, isn't it?
It is. I think we should go into the house at once. They are sure to not follow us there.
No. Men are such cowards, are they not?
This ghastly state of things must be what you call bunbury.
Oh, yes. This is the most wonderful Bunbury I've ever had in my whole life.
But you have no right to Bunbury here.
Oh, don't be absurd. One can Bunbury wherever one wants to Bunbury. Every serious Bunburyist knows that.
Serious Bunburys, good heavens.
And one must be serious about something. I happen to be serious about Bunburying. What you are serious about, I can't imagine. Everything I fancy, you have such a trivial nature.
The only small satisfaction I can take out of this whole wretched business is that your friend Bunbury has been quite exploded. You won't be able to come down to the country so often as you used to, and not a bad thing.
Well, my boy, Jack, your brother is a little off color, isn't he? You won't be able to trot down to the city whenever your wicked custom wants you to. And not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct to Miss Cardew, I see you're taking in a sweet, innocent young girl like that's inexcusable, not to mention the fact that she is my ward.
Well, I can see no defense in you deceiving a clever and brilliant and thoroughly experienced woman like Gwendolyn, not to mention that she is my first cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolyn. I love her.
Well, I wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There is no chance of your ever being engaged to Cecily.
Well, I can see no chance in you and Gwendolyn being united in the future.
It's no business of yours, is it?
Well, if it were my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It is perfectly vulgar to talk about one's business. People like stockbrokers do that, and then merely at dinner parties.
How you can sit here eating muffins in this calm manner when we are in this dreadful trouble, I can't make out. You seem perfectly heartless.
Well, I cannot eat muffins in an agitated manner. One cannot eat muffins unless they are calm. There's no other way to eat muffins. I might get butter on my cuffs.
Your eating muffins at all, under the circumstances, I think is heartless.
Well, when I'm in trouble, eating is the only thing that consoles me. Indeed, when I am in great trouble, anyone who knows me intimately will tell you that I refuse everything except for food and drink. Besides, I am particularly fond of muffins.
But there is no reason for you to eat them in that greedy manner.
I wish you would eat the tea cake. I don't like tea cake.
Good heavens, I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
You just said it was perfectly heartless to eat muffins.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you to eat muffins under the circumstances. That's quite a different thing.
Well, it may be different, but the muffins are the same.
Algy, I wish to goodness you would leave.
Well, I haven't had dinner yet. You haven't asked me to dinner. No one does that. No one ever leaves without dinner. That's absurd. Besides, only people like vegetarians do that kind of thing. Besides, I have an appointment with Dr. Joseph at 5:45 to be christened under the name Earnest.
The sooner you give up that idea, old boy, the better, for I have an appointment with Dr. Joseph at 5:30 to be christened. And of course I shall take the name of Earnest. Gwendolyn would wish it that way. Besides, I have never been christened that I know of. I have serious doubts about it, and so does Dr. Joseph. You have been christened.
But I haven't been christened for years.
Yes, but you have been christened. That is the important.
Yes, so I know that my constitution can handle such a thing. I would imagine you attempting to be christened might be a dangerous venture. You may become unwell. I mean, it isn't very often. You may forget that you were almost carried, someone very close to you was almost carried off by a severe chill in Paris this week.
But you said a severe chill was not hereditary or anything of that sort.
Well, it used to be, but I dare say it is now. Our science is making great advances.
This is nonsense. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Oh, and you are at the muffins again. There are only 2 left, and I've told you I don't like tea cake. I'm particularly fond of muffins.
But I don't like tea cake.
Well, then why on earth would you serve tea cake to your guests? What ideas you have about hospitality?
I told you to leave. I don't want you here, Algernon. Why won't you leave?
Well, I haven't finished my tea yet. And besides, there's 1 muffin left.